Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Musician's Mentor Podcast. I am your host, Travis Mark, and today I am beyond excited to say that my guest on the show is none other than songwriter to the stars, Mr. Clay Mills. During the course of Clay's career, he has had over 200 songs recorded worldwide, won 16 ASCAP awards, received multiple Grammy nominations, and even had 2 number 1 hits, one with the artist Rio and the other with Darius Rucker. I used this opportunity to talk to Clay about his expertise in the songwriting field, and we talk about that, the music business as a whole, as well as his songwriter training site, Songtown, which he started alongside Marty Dodson. Clay was an incredible guest, very open, very informative, very educated. So if you're into songwriting and music as a whole, I really think you'll get something from these interviews. And if you are, please let me remind you to leave us a rating or review across your favorite streaming network. Likewise, don't forget to check out our partnership with the lovely folks over at Soundbrenner. And furthermore, if you want other free advice and tips for your band or artist career, don't forget to check out musicians-mentor.com. For now, we're going to jump straight into this interview. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one and only Mr. Clay Mills. Alrighty, Mr. Clay Mills, songwriter to the stars. Your accomplishments go on and on. We're going to talk about that and so much more. I want to thank you for joining me on the Musician's Mentor Podcast. I know this is a weird way to start, but I start them all the same. And so what I'm going to ask you to do, please, Clay, is just give us a breakdown, a bit of an introduction as to who Clay Mills is.
Oh, wow. First and foremost, I am a margarita expert. I bet that's not I bet you've never gotten that before.
Not once.
I'm just a kid that grew up loving music and fortunate. I've been able to do music my whole life, write songs. I've gotten to write songs with, great artists that have taken those songs and made them famous. And I've gotten to write songs with great producers and songwriters. Basically, songs have taken me from a little kid in Mississippi on a farm to all around the world. Like that, to me, that's the power of a song. That's the power of music, is that it can just take you places that you never dreamed of. So that's what I do. I write songs, and then I also, through my company, Songtown, I teach songwriting to up-and-coming writers, and they're having success now. So that's fun for me to see.
That's amazing. Now, we spoke ever so briefly before we started recording, and you mentioned that you were from Mississippi. You just mentioned a little farm in Mississippi. Yes. You also mentioned New York City. We can talk about both if you like, but talk to me about the scenes in both of those places and what the eventual decision to then relocate to Nashville was for you personally.
Yeah. So growing up in Mississippi, there was not a lot of music outside of, I grew up listening to my uncle's cover band. They were in clubs playing Steely Dan and ZZ Top and just fun music. But there was nothing for me there to really, other than just play in a cover band. There was nothing for me to ever do there musically. So when I was 19, I moved to New York City and started writing songs, and somebody passed my tape. Back in those days, we actually had tapes, cassette tapes.
Cassettes.
So somebody gave my demo tape to a jingle house. We call them jingle houses. They wrote jingles for TV ads and movies and that type of thing. And they called me up and said, "Hey, we're looking for jingle writers, but we don't want a jingle writer. We want someone who writes music." How did he put it? We want someone who writes records that we can use. So I would never set out to write a jingle. It was always just, I want to write songs. So they recognized I had a talent for writing songs. And so I did that for about 8 years. And it was nice. It was great training, because one day I'd go in, they'd say, "We need a classical music piece." And then another day it's like, we need this hard rock music piece. The next day it'd be like, oh, we need a dance song, that a 17-year-old teenager can sing. And so musically, I was learning to cover just about any base I could. But it wasn't ultimately what I wanted to be doing, writing, for ads and television. And I happened to write a few that people know, so that was good. But I wanted to move to Nashville, so I did a showcase for EMI Publishing in Nashville. They flew up, saw me perform in New York with my band. They signed me, and I got to Nashville, and that jingle training actually paid off because I could sit in a room with Lady A or Little Big Town or Diamond Rio or Darius Rucker, and no matter what musical direction was needed, I could go in that direction. So for me, even though at the time when I was doing the jingles, it didn't feel like what I wanted to be doing. It actually was great practice. It was much like if, your mom made you take piano lessons for 10 years and you hated it, but you grew up, and a friend of mine had that. His mom made him play piano. He hated it, but then he grew up to be a songwriter, and he was like, I'm so glad I learned, all those years of piano, because now I use it every day for my professional life. So it was kind of how I grew up musically, was in the jingle business in New York.
It's pretty amazing. It's almost quite uncanny because the topic or lack of topic that comes up in this podcast quite often is just how often life almost steers you in this way without you realizing what it's for. You end up doing something like sitting there making these songs, but in a jingle kind of formula, and then you land up with the career you've had. It's funny how if you let it, and I say this all the time, so I'm not trying to sound like a broken record on the podcast, but if you let it, life really can do you wonders without you even trying. It's pretty amazing. Okay, yes. So EMI signed you to a publishing deal. You land up then going to Nashville. So your initial kind of landing in Nashville is possibly a little bit different to some of the other songwriters based out there that I've spoken with. But talk me through your overall movements when you get there. I mean, you mentioned that you landed up in these rooms with Darius Rucker and Lady A, and I know how songwriting rooms work. We're going to talk a little bit about them later, but I'm assuming possibly away from the connection of the EMI publishing thing, that you might have wanted to network or maybe try to do a few things to just show people out there that you were then there. And I could be wrong, but I'm just speculating here. So if that is the case, can you talk to me about how you did start meeting people and what you would potentially suggest to aspiring songwriters on how they could potentially network when moving to a new town?
Yeah. Well, first let me say I got a publishing deal with EMI. I wrote there for 2 years. I got one little small cut on an artist that never took off. And so they dropped me. And so I got another publishing deal. I lasted there for 2 years. On Christmas Eve, I got a pink slip in the mail that they were dropping me. So this was not an overnight success, but I was fortunate that I was able to keep landing publishing deals. And then on my third deal, wrote my first number one song. Honestly, my journey was different because I moved to Nashville. Mark Bright signed me at EMI. He was going to produce me. I was going to be an artist. And then I kind of made a decision. I did not want to be an artist. I just wanted to write songs because I got to Nashville and I saw all these people. They never had to go on the road. They were writing songs. The songs were famous. They got to go out to their mailbox and collect checks, royalty checks. I was like, that's what I want to do. The life on the road did not appeal to me. So I was a little different. I didn't go out. In fact, a lot of writers go out. They do songwriter nights. I was like, I'm not going out to a songwriter night and playing my songs until I have a hit that I can play. And so I really focused hard on how can I become the best songwriter I could be. And I was told early on by a Hall of Fame songwriter that if you write a great song, doors will open. And so for that 4 years where I had nothing going on, I was writing songs, but I was not writing great songs. And so I really had to learn the craft. And I tell people that you can post on social media your music till you're blue in the face. If you don't have a great song, the world doesn't care. So it's great to be good with social media. It's great to go out and play your songs live. But I just knew I had to focus on writing a great song first. Then once I got that skill, then all those other doors started opening. And then I would get invited to play better songwriter rounds with better writers. And it was more fun because the audience knew my song and they could sing along. I could get paid a higher rate for doing the shows. So for me, and this is what I teach in Songtown, it all comes down to you don't have anything unless you can write great songs. So that needs to be your first agenda. Once you've got that, I can help you get your songs in the hands of right people. We do it. We have Songtown members that have gone on to write #1 pop songs in the world, #1 country songs. Dozens have signed staff writing deals and are getting cuts. One has a country single out right now on the group Parmalee, and it's gonna be a big hit for him. And they all those writers subscribed to learn how to write a great song first. Then once you got that skill, the networking becomes much easier. And you do have to network, but you network through co-writing. Imagine a group of your peers you're writing with. One of them gets a deal. Say one of them gets a record deal. Well, now you're writing with that person and you've got songs on their album. So co-writing with people around you, your peer group, coming up together, that would be my best advice on how that happens.
And it's great advice. Now, again, we discussed at the beginning that I've only got you for a brief period of time, so I'm not trying to fast forward through your entire career here. We just got some ground to cover, man. So I'm going to try my best. We fast forward quite dramatically, and you become damn successful as a songwriter. You gain several #1s. You get Grammy nominations. I read that you had 16 ASCAP awards. You've got your induction in the Mississippi Songwriters Hall of Fame. Just a list of artists. I'm not going to run through them all. It will take up too much time, but I will put it in the show notes for those who are interested. This is a bit of a strange question because obviously as humans, we're all different. But what do you credit your drive and overall success with? Are there certain characteristics, if any, that you feel could help both songwriters and musicians? And what are some of those characteristics that, even though maybe not everybody has them, what are some characteristics that people might want to work on that could help them in this ever-changing business?
Yeah. The biggest ability I had was the ability to take chances and not play it safe. Whether I'm in the writing room, for instance, the first time I wrote with Darius Rucker, I played him a chorus of a song. He liked it, and we started working on the verses together. And the chord at that time on radio, a lot of the songs were 4-chord songs, and our chorus had the 4 chords. But I go, what if we start in the verse playing a 5 chord, go to the 5. And I had never done that. I don't know many songs that have done that. And then it was like, okay, oh crap, how am I going to get back to the 1 chord from there? Okay, I'm going to have to go over here to a 2 sus chord to this, it was like figuring it out as we went. So I jumped off a cliff and I had to figure it out. So that pretty much has been my philosophy. And the reason I say that is when the first time you show up to write with a big artist, your instincts for a lot of people are just play it safe. Do something you know is going to work. My instincts are I'm not going to get on this person's album unless I come up with something that hasn't been done before. I'm not trying to be safe.
Yeah.
And the same way when at 19, when I moved to New York City, I didn't know anyone in New York City. I just moved and I figured out how to make it work. I came to Nashville, took a chance by giving up. I was doing well writing jingles, making really good money. I was singing backgrounds on them. I was playing all the instruments on them. And so it was really cool. But I was like, I'm going to give all that up and go for a few $100s a week, take this publishing deal in Nashville. And people thought I was crazy. Like, how can you do that? Like, but I knew I wanted to be a songwriter. I knew I wanted to write songs that mattered to me and not just write jingles for some, product. So to me, being able to take chances, and the other part you said, that being able to persevere, my wife calls it grit. She's like, I've never seen anybody that has the amount of grit that you have, where I'm just not going to give up. I'm going to keep working and working. And Sonny Lemare and I used to say, we wrote my first number one song together. We used to say, you got to burn the bridges behind you. No retreat. Burn the bridges, no retreat. We used to say that to each other all the time, meaning there's no way I can go back. All I can do is succeed. And I don't recommend that if you want to be a well-adjusted person, because it is a ton of pressure. It's a ton of stress. But I got to do what I loved, and I was not going to fail at it. And I realized I got incredibly lucky along the way, but part of me says what it is I did not give up until I got lucky. I think a lot of people, luck is coming, but they give up before it happens. And so for me, I've just never been like that. I'm not going to call my parents and say, well, yeah, I failed in the music business. I'm going to give up and come back home. Like, it just wasn't part of my DNA. So that would be how I would answer all of that. Those two things.
I like it, and I like the grit phrase. That's quite cool. Okay, so let's flip that on its head. You mentioned pressure and the pressures that can come with trying to pursue this type of career. So what do you think have been the hardest parts about choosing a career in music, or more specifically, songwriting?
Just not ever knowing. Like, you wake up every day and you have to invent what's going to happen in your life. Like, you're not going to med school and then opening up a practice. Like, no, it's not like there's a roadmap that's clear. You're not going to law school and then joining a firm. And then, so you have to wake up every day and figure this big puzzle out. And so there's a lot of uncertainty, but to me, that's where the great stuff comes in, because you start trusting your gut, you start trusting your instincts, you start being creative. And that's where the magic happens. I never want to be at a point in my life where I'm so comfortable that everything is just boring, So
yeah,
it's not an easy life. Like I said, I have a son that lives in New York City now, and I'm kind of glad that he has a job at a big company. He's a photographer, and I'm glad he's found a way to make that pay off in a more secure way than what I did, because I was just out there winging it every day.
Yeah. Let's switch gears. We'll talk a little bit about the company or community that you co-founded with Marty Dodson, Songtown. I see you've got your logo behind you. You actually have a really nice setup. It's really cool. Talk to me about a few things. One, what was the initial goal to start the platform? I'll list them all, but obviously, if you want me to remind you as you go in, I will. So one, what was the initial goal to start the platform? Two, how's it all going? I mean, you mentioned that some of your writers have publishing deals and placements and staff writing jobs, etc., etc., etc. And then thirdly, without trying to make it sound too cliche, give aspiring writers a bit of a pitch on what Songtown is for them so that they know if they've never heard of the platform. And just basically, tell us all things Songtown related.
All right. So tell me the first question again, and then we'll get started.
What was the initial reasoning behind starting the platform?
Yeah, two things. So when I was in my 20s, I heard an interview one time, and a person said, your 20s and 30s and 40s, it's all about you trying to accomplish things, and you're very focused on yourself. And he's like, when you turn 50, then there's a calling to start teaching and giving back. And so when I turned 50, I said to myself, for some reason that always stuck in my head. So I happened to be talking to Marty Dodson, my co-founder at Songtown, and we were talking and really about a couple of people we knew, writers, came to town and got charged this astronomical price for a 5-song demo. I mean, it was like $50,000. The studio took all of their publishing, and it was just such a ripoff. And so we started saying, why don't we just do a Facebook article every day and talk about how the songwriting business really works, how the music business really works. And so we did that for 2 years, and we built up a large following on Facebook for no other reason than to just try to tell people so that we could prevent that kind of stuff from happening. And then somebody asked us if we would teach a class on songwriting. So I did that online. And then our community was like, can you start a website community for us? So we did that. None of this was planned by Marty and I. It was all just, we wanted to give back. Some people go, oh, you guys you can't make it as songwriters, so you started teaching songwriting. But that couldn't be further from the truth.
Of course.
I had number one song on the chart when we started the Songtown website. And it's never been about that for us, fortunately, because then we could tell people how things really work, instead of telling people what they want to hear so that they sign up and join Songtown. So we started doing that, and it's just grown to thousands of members now all over the world. We go by the premise of, if you want to have fun, writing better songs is a lot more fun. If you want to have a career in music, writing better songs is going to get you that to happen quicker. So everything we do is, first you write better songs, learn how to do that. And then when your songs are good enough, we do have ways, programs. We have one program where you meet with a publisher every month. They'll tell you, write songs for these 3 artists. You submit a song. If it's good, they'll pitch it. And so basically, it's like training you to be in the music business, to learn to write, to learn the business, to learn how to work with publishers, how to work with artists. We have a program going on right now where you can submit song starts to label artists that we brought in, and 3 people in the class are going to win co-writing sessions with signed label artists that one just had his first gold record. So we're trying to bring opportunity for our members, and it is working. Sarah Davis and the artist Gail met in Songtown, took classes, they started writing together. A couple of years ago, they had the biggest song in the entire world, A, B, C, D, E, F, U.
Great song. Great song.
It was fun. Yeah, it was fun, but it was also just fun to see those because they were teenagers when they joined Songtown. And then trying to think, we've had number one pop. Lee Starr had a number one country song. We've had number one songs in Australia, the UK, all over. So it's fun to see those people succeeding, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. So talk me through as if I'm completely ignorant here, okay? Because I'm just trying to put it from a listener point of view that, again, might not know. And I'm going to ask you a bunch of what I'm going to call lightning round questions in a couple minutes. But so hypothetically, I'm a songwriter and I think I've got a great song. And I come to a platform like Songtown and I want to play that song for you. Can I do that through your platform? And then do you give me feedback on said song? Or if, you know, in a positive way, if you think that song's great, do you then say, hey, I think you should talk to so-and-so? Or do you help direct those kinds of traffic lanes?
Yes. So when you join Songtown, you get feedback. Every month you can submit a song. We have hit writers that will give you feedback on those songs. The best songs are passed to me and Marty. If we feel like it's appropriate to pass that on to an artist or publisher, we will. But more importantly, is I try to get writers off this mentality of writing one great song and trying to get something to happen. You've got to become a good writer. So if you're consistently writing and turning in good songs to Songtown, we can get you into our Edge group where you're working every month with top publishers. You're getting writing assignments. You're getting songs pitched if you nail the assignments. So there's a way we do the music business the way it really works. We're not a send us your song and we'll pitch it to somebody platform where just submit your song with $25 and we're going to, see if we can pitch it for this product. Those kind of websites are not how the music business works. And I don't want to put anyone down, but we just took the approach that we're going to teach how the music business works and we're going to function as a community and model it after the music business. So everything we do is set up. You got to become a good writer. Once you're consistently writing great songs, you're co-writing with other people in the community, maybe, then we can hook you up with publishers who can then get those songs to artists. So there's a flow to how it works.
Yeah. And what about in regards to, they used to be called work tapes. I don't know if they still are.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in such a state now that the artists who get to the point that they're working with your publishers and your artists, et cetera, do they need to have their work almost completely produced? Or if the song's good enough with just them singing with a guitar, is that enough for them to get to that next kind of level?
Yeah, it's really depends a lot on genre and who you're pitching to, the type of song it is. But in the country world, work tapes can work. But what I see more than anything are very simple demos in country where perhaps it's a drum loop, percussion loop, a couple of guitars, maybe a keyboard pad sound and a vocal, very simple, kind of like an elaborate work tape.
Okay.
In the sync world, a lot of people are writing for sync and Songtown now, that you need more polished masters to pitch. And so what I recommend is when somebody joins Songtown, if they're a songwriter, I say, well, you need to work with this producer over here that's in Songtown, and you guys write together, you bring in a singer from the community, and the three of you can create a master and a song that's pitchable for sync. So in sync, you're going to work more in teams like that, and pop, Yes, and pop, you need a little bit more of a finished master as well. Although the publisher we work with in our edge groups for pop out of LA, he's very good about being able to hear work tapes and going, I really think you need to do a full blown demo on this one, So because it's hard to afford, to demo every song you write.
Yeah.
And then we could get into the whole Suno and AI discussion because people are starting to turn in demos done by Suno, which I've talked to a lot of lawyers. That's their terms of service basically gives them the rights to do anything they want with your music. So I would be careful of that. I know I get, especially lyricists, they're like, well, I typed in my words to Suno and it gave me this song back. But you got to realize that you're getting back something that is average, and you're not going to get an average song recorded by a good artist. They're looking for something that's magical, that's fresh, that's different. And if you are just, now AI has raised the bar of average, so I guess in some sense that's good. There you won't sound bad, but you're not going to sound incredible and magical and fresh and different and just make an artist's jaw drop because you wrote something incredible with a lot of heart and a lot of emotion and feeling. So yeah, that's a whole nother discussion about AI.
Oh yeah, I've got it. I've got it on my notes right here. And if we have the time, we're totally gonna explore. It's a topic. It's a very interesting topic. But let's get on to what I'm going to phrase as the lightning round of your questions. I've been doing this a little bit lately because I've been talking to a few people that really seem to specialize, and I classify you as a specialized guy in the songwriting world. So I'm going to pick your brain a little bit and try clear up a couple misconceptions in the songwriting world. And you can keep these as brief or as long as you want, but I've got a few, so the choice is really yours. The first thing that I would like to try and get some clarity on is the term selling songs. A lot of people seem to go, I'm going to sell my song. And if you've done enough research or if you've been doing this for a long enough time, you know that that's not really how it works, but this doesn't seem to disappear. I mean, I see the term selling songs on social media like once a day, and it drives me nuts. Yeah. So talk to me exactly about how a song gets placed with an artist rather than someone thinking that they are selling their song.
Yeah, so you don't sell a song, you license it. You still own the song, but you're giving someone permission to use it. So they don't, selling would be more like somebody comes to you and says, I like your song, here's $1,000, and then they own it. They don't own your song when you license it to them. So it's not really a thing unless you're a ghostwriter, but I would never want to do that. But yeah, so there is no such thing as selling. Yeah. That's the first thing. Is that what you were asking, or you're asking something else?
Pretty much exactly that. So that's a great answer.
Yeah, because you always want to own it. I mean, let's be honest. I own the rights to my first #1 song, Beautiful Mess, for my portion. I wrote it with 2 other people, so they have their portion. But that song is paying me royalties 21 years later. After it was a big hit, it's still paying me very nice royalties.
Yeah.
And so if I had just sold the song, then I wouldn't get that check every quarter from ASCAP.
Yeah.
Somebody else would be getting that check. So yeah, never sell your song, always license it. And that's pretty standard practice in the business.
Great. What about staff writing? Talk to me and tell my listeners exactly what that is and how they eventually might be able to explore such vocations.
Yes, excellent. So staff writing, you sign with a publishing company and you agree to give them all of your songs for the period of the contract. It could be anywhere from a year to 5 years, whatever you negotiate. So every single song you write, they have the publishing to. So with songwriting, there's a writer's share and there's a publisher's share, two equal parts of the pie. So they have the publisher's share, you have the writer's share. As you get more successful, you can get more of the publishing share also. You can negotiate for that. But so in return, they get your songs. What they give you is typically they pay for your demos, maybe. So you don't have to spend money on your demos anymore. They pay you maybe a draw to live on, a small draw. So it takes the pressure off of having to work a day job if you can get a draw from a company. And the other thing they do, hopefully, is network for you on your behalf. They'll go out and, for instance, for me, my publisher at the time got me on a tour bus to write with Darius Rucker. He hooked that up. He took care of all of that. I did not know Darius Rucker. I stepped on a tour bus. The first time I met him, we wrote his first #1 song as an artist. And that would not have happened if I had not had a publisher to set that up for me. I have gotten my own cuts through my own contacts, but it's better to have my contacts and a publisher's contacts all working together. So that's the benefit of it. To get a publishing deal, you got to consistently write good songs, great songs. And these days, you generally want to have something going on, meaning some action on the charts. For instance, one Songtown member, Peter Newman, he just signed his first mate with a major publisher. They're going to announce it soon. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say who it is yet, but they're fixing to announce it. And he, through co-writing and networking around town, lived in Canada, made trips to Nashville every few months, got in some rooms to write, wrote a song that was pitched to Parmalee called Cowgirl, and it's now their current single. So now that he has a current single going on, it makes it easier for him to get a staff writing deal. Now, you don't have to do that, but he's going to get a better deal because he waited until he had some real traction and some real excitement. So he'll be able to negotiate a better deal for himself than if you're just going to a publisher and saying, I don't have anything going on. If they do sign you, they're probably going to take everything. So I would,
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, one of these lightning questions was going to be, what does or should a publisher do? But you kind of answered that pretty well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to slightly tweak it and then get back to the last few questions here. But what could songwriters do if they sign with a publisher who isn't, in their opinion, proactive? So like you mentioned, your publisher put you on this tour bus with Darius Rucker. Amazing. I've also heard many stories of artists whose names I will not mention, but who sign these publishing deals. And they get a little bit of an advance or a monthly draw, but the publisher doesn't ever seem to do anything. And now it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because I don't think an artist should think that, hey, I've signed this publishing deal, or a songwriter should think, I've signed this publishing deal and the rest is up to the publisher. That's not fair. But likewise, there are some publishers, at least in the stories that I've heard and some of the experiences that I've seen, that don't seem to do anything with the songwriter's material. What should songwriters do in that regard? Can they leave?
Well,
Does it depend on how strict that contract is? If they've had a lawyer take a look at it, what would you suggest?
Yeah, this happens all the time. Usually contracts are structured. For instance, if it's a 5-year deal, it might be structured where they guarantee you 2 years. And then after that, it's their decision for the next 3 years whether to keep you or let you go. So you're really at their mercy when it comes to that on a typical deal. Now, the more leverage you have, the better you can make that deal and go, okay, well, I want to have the option as well every year. Um, but usually your first deal, you don't have those kind of options. There's also something called a key man clause. So if you sign with a big company and you have a champion there, you put a key man clause in your contract. So if they leave the company, you're not just left hanging. You can go, okay, I'm going to invoke this clause and I can get out of my contract. So that's one way around it. But yeah, it's hard. You have to go with people you believe are going to work for you. But a publisher is never going to make you successful. You really have to depend on yourself, and be out there writing as much as possible with people, trying to build your own network. And often a publisher can help take it to the next level if you've got some traction going on yourself, you know. But if you've got nothing going on and the greatest publisher in the world can't pick up a phone and call a famous artist and go, you should write with this person that has nothing going on. Like, it just doesn't, I don't care how. So when people blame their publisher, sometimes they got to look in the mirror and go, well, what do I have going on? You know, and start there.
That's a great way to look at it. Okay, my last two lightning questions for you, Clay. You mentioned rooms earlier, so let's talk about room etiquette. What tips could you offer that might add value for a writer when they finally do find themselves in a room? And furthermore, how do they start getting into rooms?
Yeah. So here's the thing. A lot of writers are like, I want to get in these rooms with hit writers and I want to get in the room with hit artists. Doesn't happen like that. People come up together in groups. So first thing you need to do is find your peer group and write with those people. When you are ready, somebody in that group will move up and you'll move up together. There's just somebody told me that early in my career. And then years later, it happened for me like that. It's happened for everyone I know. They're writing with their peer group. Something good happens and everybody in the peer group moves up. So I tell people, focus on writing better songs every day and write with the people around you that are available. And when you really nail those two things, doors are going to start opening. You'll get a co-write. Maybe your friend says, hey, I'm writing with this new artist tomorrow who's on Sony. You want to join us? And you're like, yeah. So you go and you write a song they really love. And so then it goes on the album. But that's what, networking is all about, is being able to show up in the room, be a good hang, meaning you're not, trying to, how do you say it? Big league. I don't know if you're not trying to big league anybody like I'm the best person in the room and everybody needs to listen to me. It's not like that. In fact, in my writing rooms, we always had this phrase, the song is king. And we don't care who comes up with a line. If it's right for the song, that line's going in the song. And so there's none of this ego. You check your ego at the door and you write the best song. And I think if you subscribe to that, if you're easy to get along with, if you know your stuff when it comes to writing, then you're going to keep getting invited into more and more rooms. If you and I were writing and it went well, you might go, hey, tomorrow I'm writing with this other writer. You want to join us? And then you write with that other writer. And then they're like, hey, tomorrow I'm writing with this artist. You want to, and so it starts getting around that you're a good writer and you're easy to work with. And I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, again, great answer. Last question in this regard, splits. Should splits be spoken about before writing commences, or is it just a given that if there are, let's take a number, there are 3 people in a room, equal splits? Or if that's not the case, should it be discussed before the creating sort of period starts? And do you do that yourself, or do you let your publisher do that?
Every writing session I'm on is equal splits. for my entire career. I would not go write if somebody said, "Hey, we need you." If a producer said to me, "We're going to give you 10%," I wouldn't be in the room. Like it's just, and most people I know work that way, equal splits. But if it's going to be different, yeah, you need to bring that up before. Interesting enough, if it's never spoken about by law, if there's no agreement in place, it has to be equal splits. So if you have not signed an agreement, then technically by the law, it just defaults into equal splits. But I know, there's unscrupulous people that might, so I don't care what the law is. I'm going to do this, and then is it really worth it to take them to court or whatever? But by and large, it's always been equal splits for me.
Yeah. You mentioned the Canadian fella earlier, the guy who wrote the Cowgirl song, I believe you said it was titled.
Peter Daniel Newman. And you mentioned that he's been coming into Nashville every couple months or something to that effect. So I've always heard that Nashville is a 10-year town. That's at least what everybody always tells me. Would that way of thinking maybe be incorrect with knowing that somebody that is in a place like Canada can come there every few months and potentially still have success? Or would someone like that potentially still want to then look at possibly locating there on a permanent basis to follow up with said success? Well, the world's changed a lot since COVID, and people write online a lot more now. So that song was interesting, that Cowgirl song. Peter wrote that with somebody, I believe that's in Sweden, and they wrote it, and then it got passed to the band, and the band had changes, and they added to the song, and so it was literally nobody had to be in Nashville for that to happen, but you got to be here enough. Like I said, he would come every few months and stay for a couple of weeks. You got to be here enough to see people and let your face be known. And he hired a song plugger, somebody that works and is connected with Songtown, that runs one of our groups I was talking about where they pitch songs. He worked with this song plugger, and she got him the Parmelee cut. She got another one of our members cut on a big artist Christmas album last year. So both of those people were making trips back and forth on those cuts. So
amazing.
But Peter, I don't think Peter's going to move to Nashville. I think he's happy just going back and forth.
Okay, let's bring it back to AI for a couple minutes. Then I'll start finishing you off because I want to respect your time. We were talking about AI. Again, lots of mixed emotions, mixed thoughts in that regard, not just for songwriters, for creatives across the board, writers, screenplay writers, musicians. I'm even starting to see a lot of mixing and mastering software. The mastering stuff's been out there for a while, but I'm starting to see mixing stuff, which is quite interesting. I don't want to be redundant and make you repeat yourself here in any way, but how do you think this is really going to affect songwriters, in your opinion?
Yeah. So if you are unoriginal and you're if you sign up for a course you see on Instagram, write a hit in 7 days to this secret hit formula, if you subscribe to all that, then AI is going to work great for you. Because AI is basically AI can only put out what it comes up with from its training set. So AI is not capable of, back in the 60s, going John Lennon on this Beatles record. It's not capable of going, let's distort a vocal. But John Lennon did, and it changed, so much of music. So it's not going to come up with a singer that sounds like Freddie Mercury before Freddie Mercury. It's so the human element, our job is to be unique and to be original and to have the vision beyond what is being done right now. So if you are writing with vision in mind, AI can't do that. Now, if you're writing to a formula, AI can come up with formula and spit out something that sounds like everything else. And it'll do that for days. I do think for sync music, if there's like some incidental music in the background that maybe a songwriter would have gotten paid $300 for in some cable TV show, then that could all easily be done by AI. But even in the sync world, they love discovering new artists and that thrill of something that's fresh and different and helping a new artist take off by putting their music in a TV show or putting their music in a movie. Those type of high-paying sync placements, they don't want AI. They don't use AI. They'll tell you don't pitch AI. And there's a lot of reasons. The copyright issue. AI can't be copyrighted. Only human works can. So you have to predominantly have human interaction. It can't be the AI writing your entire music, or your AI can't write your entire lyric. So there's the legal side of it. And I mentioned before, you sign up for some of these services, and they actually, if you read the terms of service, they actually can do anything they want commercially with your song that you upload to them.
Scary.
They'll say you own the copyright, but in the same breath, they're taking away your rights by saying they can monetize it any way they see fit.
Yeah.
They can train their songs in the future. So if I upload something original, a work tape, and I say, do a demo for me, well, they can train on that, and then they can spit out songs that sound like that in the future based on my original ideas I came up with. So just be careful if you're going to use something like that. Just know that you're giving up your rights to that stuff. And music publishers, they don't want you to come in with a melody that AI wrote because they want to own it, and they don't want AI to own it. And even if you pay the $35 platform fee and they say you own this, it's not true.
Yeah.
There will be lawsuits the second one of these becomes a hit. There's going to be lawsuits claiming that Suno owns this song, and publishers don't want any part of that yet.
Yeah.
So,
well, you're seeing that a lot in the hip hop world, right? Like with the beat makers. Yeah. A lot of these beat makers are selling beats, claiming that they produced those beats, not being honest about the fact that they bought these sample packs and basically shoved these beats together.
Right.
And furthermore, not looking into the rights of said sample pack. And then, song blows up and they're like, hey, I produced this song. And then the guy who created the actual sample comes out the woodworks and goes, but you didn't. And so like you've seen that a lot over the last couple of years in hip hop. So very scary stuff. Anyway, Clay, thank you so much. I have one last question for you. And that is, what do you feel has either been the best piece of advice you've ever received in regards to having a music career? Or if you can't think of something along those lines, what do you think could be good advice that you've learned along the way that might help someone on their journey?
Yeah. So the first person that was kind of a mentor to me in New York City, a guy named Richard Berg, and he owned a jingle company that I wrote for. He said, you can't be afraid to be a a-hole. And that was his phrase. And what he meant by that is you can't be afraid to make mistakes and make a fool out of yourself. You have to swing for the fences. So that goes back to my story with Darius. I jumped off on a cliff and said, I'm going to start this verse on a 5 chord. I never done that before, but I was not afraid to make a fool out of myself. And so to me, that's the kind of mentality you have to have. If you play it safe, your AI will take that away from you. So swing for the fences, go big, and have fun. write great music.
Amazing. Sir Clay Mills, dude, thank you so much. I will put all your credits in the show notes. I'll put the links to Songtown and all things Clay Mills related in the show notes. I can't thank you enough for your time. Keep on fighting the good fight, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace. Sweet. There we have it. Clay Mills, everybody. I can't thank Clay enough for his time. I thought he was super informative, very open about things. That is gold in this industry. Hence why we call this show The Musician's Mentor. Sometimes you get some of this information and it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I promise you, when you've been doing this as long as I have, it truly is. A lot of gatekeepers in this industry don't want to share anything. So I can't thank Clay enough for being so open. Likewise, I want to thank each and every one of you for continuing to join me on this journey. Please don't forget to check out the musicians-mentor.com site for all things Travis Mark related, or if you need any help or guidance with your band. I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, be diligent, work hard, play hard, but mostly have some fun. Peace.